All right, so I'm live with MLOPs Projects here, and last time that I was playing around with the MLOps Project live coding, I explored Bento a little bit, which was kind of fun. So let's go ahead and pull this thing up real quick and see where I'm at, and let's get into this thing here, and let's pull up what we can pull up here. And if I remember correctly, let's see here. We had trial Bento. So yeah, I tried out Bento and it was pretty interesting. And maybe I'll just recap a few things that are interesting about it. And one of the things that I really liked about it was that it was really containerized from the beginning, right? So you can see here that if we look at this main concepts here, that they're deploying it to understand how it's different from BentoML. We can see Bento ML lists, containerize. Like it really is more of like a container centric story, which I do think is actually the way to go, because if you're going to do a deployment, most likely you are going to be dealing with a container. And so I think there's some really cool things here that we can play around with. So maybe I'll maybe I'll continue to use a little bit more Bento, because I think I just went through the tutorial before, and it might be nice to go beyond the tutorial. I mean, I do like this. I do like that you can just save a model really quick, and then let's just actually pull this up one more time just so I can take a look at this. So if I go back into this repo, and let's just go into like temp or something like that, and yeah, here we go. And if I just copy this, if I just copy this script, no, we shouldn't do it in temp. I'm going to go back to workspace. Oops. Let's just make a directory called Bento. Just make a directory BentoML. And I'm just out of curiosity, if I just then say touch Bento, let's call this hello.py. What I like about this is that, like, that's super simple, right? So I can just, and if I run this, it's going to save it to a local model store. So let's try it out. So let's just say Python BentoML hello. What does it do? Just out of curiosity, so it said model saved. So, but where is it putting that? If I go into BentoML, they're putting it locally here. We can find out where it's actually putting this. The model's under model saved here. So if we go back here, what did it say before? So if I run it one more time, hello, it says model saved tag, but where is that location? So we need to find out where it saves it. Blah, blah, blah. Using models, saving models. Let's see, where does it put it? Is it possible managing saved models? Oh, Bento model list. There we go. Ah, pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff here. So you say, I'll just make a README in here. README.md, and we can do Bento model list. I like this. I mean, this is a very intuitive process here. There we go, model, and let's add a little bit of documentation to this, and we can just add in like some Bento exploration. Let's do this. Now, we do saving models. Where was I just looking at? Where it told me where to managing models. Here we go. So it says But why does it not show me the path? Bento's model, export, pip install, push and pull. Huh, interesting. Wow, this is some very interesting ideas here. Get, I see. So you can play around with it a little bit. So I guess if I went to models, bento models, what is this thing? Bento models. Oh, yeah, Yati. What is that thing? So it provides a centralized repo. You once your team have it set up, I see. So it's like a model registry tool. Um, this is interesting though. So let's try that out real quick. Let's go to this. Let's just type in IPython. Let's just put that in. Bento model dot bento model path. Here we go. So where does it put it? So it puts it in code space, bento models. So it says code space, BentoML. Why do I not see models here? Is it like hidden or something? This is so strange. Let me do that. ls. Oh, so does it? It says code space. Oh, so it puts it like a directory above. Okay, now at least I understand where it's coming from. So if I go into BentoML, so it's one directory above, which is interesting. Which means that file open folder here BentoML. No workspace. It would be workspace. No, it would be Bento. Home code space Bento ML. Here we go. Oh, so it changes. So that's one thing about Visual Studio is that's not exactly what I wanted it to do. So I don't want it to switch to a totally different directory like that. But we can see the models at least and notice that the model has a YAML file associated with it. I like the fact that what Bento is doing here is that it's much smaller. Like if you compare this to ML Flow, for example, ML Flow is just like, come on, where's all the? There's just so much stuff. But look, this is just the pickle file and this this metadata about this. So that is very, very clean. And I think this is an interesting concept that I'm finding here. So far I actually really have some high hopes here for this. So if we go back to uh, open folder and we just go back to my workspace here, home, which is it code space, code space. What happens if I do that? Um, BentoML, VS Code Remote. Boy, once you get out of your comfort zone with the workspace, then home, workspace, code space. I actually have no clue. I'm just going to close and I'm just going to open it back up again because I really don't even know what happened to which path I was even in. I'm going to go to MLOPs here, open it back up again. Hopefully it'll just remember the right spot to open up. Oh, here we go. We can go here. We can click on this. MLOps template. Code space. Workspace. But once you get a little bit lost in here, my code space, nope, that's not it. You can really get turned around. So we can say open folder. We can go to code space, VS Code remote. Yeah, I really don't actually know. I'm going to have to open up a totally different environment. In other words, workspaces. There you go, workspaces, MLOps template. That's why. So it's workspaces, MLOps template. So if I open up a folder, it would be workspace sys MLOps template. There you go. So that's where I want to be. But yeah, if you're in Visual Studio Code for the web here and you pop out of the wrong directory, you get lost here. But now that I know my way around here, what is cool is that I know that BentoML is going to be inside of here, home, and it's going to be instead of code space, BentoML. There we go. Right. And then now we can see that models live there. And then if we want to look at this, we can see the different models, right? And we can see that. I mean, my opinion, none of this conda stuff, none of this weird things like you have a serialized model and you have a config file. This is beautiful. I really, really like what they're doing here. So I'm going to put this into the documentation here and just say like some notes, like very clean format for dealing with models. There we go. Very, very cool. And we can see like it only gives you a model.yaml and a saved model.pickle. There you go. Perfect. Right. Now, what else can we do with this thing? So we know that you can save it, which is what we did. The model's saved right there. What else can we do here? So it's possible to use pre-trained models with BentoML, which is interesting. Let's go ahead and see this. So to do that, I see. So you can attach some custom metadata. Wow, this is clean. This is really nice. And then you can retrieve it in a very clean way here. Managing models, get model list. You can export it. Model save can be exported to a standalone archive. So I'm curious what happens if I just export this. So I'm going to try the export here next. So we can go here and let's just run this command. What happened? There we go. So all it did was it just made it, I'm assuming this serialized file locally here, which is nice. And if we do a du-sh, a note here that says export the model like that. Look, it's a 16K file. We can just delete this. Yeah, not bad. I have to admit, I'm very impressed so far with Bento here. It says model can be exported to or from AWS S3, GCS, FTP, Dropbox, for example. Yeah, this is great, right? Like that's exactly what I would want to do. I would just use this thing to deal with versioning and then maybe export it so that I can pull it into, let's say, AWS Lambda. Now, I don't know what this Yati thing is. Let's see how this works. So BentoML Yati, huh? So it lets you deploy, operate, and scale on Kubernetes. It supports deploying any model via BentoML, the unified model serving framework. So Bento, here we go. Quick trial, install it with this script. Okay, let's try it out. Let's see if I can get this to work. So next up, I'm going to say like tryouts, YATAI. So we'll do this. Let's do this. I think the command here is, whoops, copy. See what happens. Connection. Oh, is that possible? Is that really possible? Is that quick? No. What's going on here? So to install with the following script, so bash, that didn't do anything. We need to run this again. Bash, so it's piping a bash command. Connection to the, maybe because it needs Kubernetes. Oh, you need to install Minikube, Helm, start it. Well, we can do that. We definitely can install, and then you have to allow it to do this, and then you get all this stuff working. Well, should I try it? Sure, why not? Let's go here. And so how would we install Minikube? So we'll put a note here that says, let's install Minikube. Fortunately, pretty easy to do in GitHub code spaces. We just go here and we say configure dev container features, like that, and we just say Minikube. There you go. How about that? We can take no conda. We want Minikube. There we go. Perfect. Let's see what happens. And it says we've noticed a change. And so now if we go to extensions, or we go to, I believe that's all we needed to do was rebuild now. Let's rebuild it and let's see what happens. But what this should do is add Minikube to my installation, which in theory would then let me install this Yati thing inside, which definitely looks very, very interesting. So while this thing is building, we can even pull this here. So it's creating container, cleaning up Docker images. We can take a look at the documentation for this. So this would so what we need to do is make sure Minikube's installed. Install Helm. It may come automatically with this. I don't 100% know yet. We'll find out. And then start the Minikube here, which I think this is a pretty beefy machine, so it should have no problem. Make sure it's running by doing Minikube status. Make sure that kubectl is configured with Minikube, kubectl config, current context, and then enable ingress controller, Minikube add-ons, enable ingress. Sorry, so you just run this particular command here. So to access the web UI, you didn't do this. So basically, it looks like it works pretty well with um, with Minikube, which is very interesting. So it's going to finish installing all this stuff inside the container. Now, what I'm using here, this code space, is something that I can actually also bring up real quick. So if we go to this repo here, this is the MLOps template that I've been playing around with. You can see it's pinned right here. And so I have a bunch of configuration here that works well with code spaces. And in addition, that if you look at the dev container, I've been keeping track of things like, dev container files, and also the JSON file that arranges things and keeps track of the extensions. So in theory, I should be able, if Minikube does in fact get installed here, which I think I did, I should be able to check that into this uh, into this config, and then we'll be able to run it inside of Minikube. So that will be very helpful. Another thing I'll point out that I did in here is if we go to settings, if you go to code spaces and we go to this, you can see I have actually two different branches here. I have a CPU branch and a GPU branch, and this, every time I make a change to it, it gets rebuilt, so that in theory it's actually extremely fast because that container is actually built again. So this is one of the, I think the real changes we're seeing in terms of MLOps is a container first workflow in order to do things with MLOps. So let's go ahead and take a look at this here, and looks like it's loading all of its libraries. And let's get this thing cooking here. So this is, again, why it's, I think, such a critical thing when you're dealing with Kubernetes, containers, all this stuff. Like, you have no choice. Like, I think this is really highlights why like a container first workflow is so critical, and a cloud-based environment is so critical, is that you can do this pre-build process where you've got everything configured, a really complex setup. And then when you want to try out a new feature, like some new MLOps framework, you can actually go through and try it out by using a pre-built container. You can see here it's downloading a bunch of the packages now that I set up earlier inside of my config file here. So if we go back to this and we go to this and we go to the requirements here, you can see I've got a bunch of pinned requirements that I'm always referring to. So I know that these worked at one point. And so we've got the final ones here. I think I have the Bento as well, right? Did I install Bento? Let's double check here. Bento. Oh, let's not have checked this in yet. So I'm going to make sure I check in the Bento so that this is part of this repo. Here we go. So I think it's installing wheel files, Databricks, Python packages, all kinds of fun stuff. Whisper. So this is a very complex installation here that we got cooking. There we go. So we're doing, I believe, the final installation here. It's, notice this Databricks libraries can involve a lot of stuff because it's got Java and all kinds of other libraries associated with it. And that's what this final part is. So if we go to Databricks, I believe Where's Databricks? There we go. Databricks CLI right there. Yeah, I have been able to connect to Databricks, which is also does MLOps from Codespaces. And so that's the idea with this particular template, is to try to get as many different kinds of MLOps tooling hooked into here so I can recreate it. So let's go ahead and get this cooking. So now it's running the dev container features, which can do things like, there we go, there's Minikube. So it is going to install, oh look, it's going to install Helm, it's going to install Minikube. Great. I'm excited to see what happens here. And then this is CUDA. CUDA is able to actually be installed. Perfect. Unpacking lib kubeless, unpacking CUDA MVRTC. So I believe this is the last part of the installation, which is, you can see it's a Debian file. So it's a Debian package. And that's part of the features of dev container, which we can find here. So if we go to this MLOps template and we look at this dev container file, it's this feature that I've enabled, which allows the NVIDIA GPU to actually be enabled in this particular environment. So again, it takes a little bit of time to get all this stuff cooking, which is why the pre-builds are so great. And I'm going to make sure that I check in all these changes so that this template, if somebody wanted to fork it and use it, you can actually use this exact template to run your own stuff. So let's go ahead and wait for this thing to get cooking here. And looks close. Looks close. So we can use this. Say, there we go. Perfect. Now I'm in my environment. So this is what's critical with code spaces. When you get a really, this is a very complex environment, is let's do get status here. Look, see what the issue is inside of here is, look, I've changed this config. I've changed the requirements. And if we look at the dev container here, we can see there's a bunch of different things in there. For example, I believe it put in, well, what we need to do is go to extensions and actually look at all the extensions and make sure that they're all inside of there. So we got this one, this one, this one. And if I do a search for Minikube, see this feature, that's why we have to make a change to our dev container. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to remove this Azure AutoML thing that I was doing. Don't do that anymore. That's, I do want to check in the rest. Get add.dev container, get add star. We'll say adding Kubernetes. There we go. Perfect. So now other people can get access to this. So yeah, if any other people want to reproduce this, all you got to do is you can spin this up, and this has GPUs enabled and all kinds of stuff. And we could even train a model using the NVIDIA GPU. But what I wanted to try next was this step here, which is let's install this. So I know I've done that. So the next step would be to do this command. Let's go ahead and do that command. So let's go to the README here. So let's run this command here like that. And let's do it. Minikube start CPUs, fingers crossed. Boom, there we go. So we can see that this is why code spaces is so amazing, is that it takes extremely complex setups. I mean, this is non-trivial setup, GPUs, Kubernetes, all kinds of stuff, and it just makes it trivial to get something like this running. And let's just watch this. It's going to get the latest version of Kubernetes. It's going to grab a preloaded image, and this is a very powerful environment as well. So if we open up another shell, for example, and I just ran htop, we can see here that I've got a lot of cores available, 6 cores, and look, in memory, I have 110 gigs of RAM, which is crazy amount of memory. You never can have enough memory here. And so if we look at Minikube, you can see it's creating Docker containers, is preparing Kubernetes here, which is pretty nice. Booting up the control plane. Once this is running, then the next step, I believe, will be to get, so check it's running. So we want to run this command next. So let's do that. Must install it. And we'll say check if it is running. So let's do that. There we go. So let's run this command, minikube status. Boom, it's running. So what do we do next? So we make sure your kubectl is configured. Let's run this command. Yep, it is. Double check context. That's what else we do. And then we want to enable ingress controller. I'm assuming that's the final thing that basically lets us talk to it. So like enable ingress. Okay, once we've done all this, then the installation, I believe, should work. So now I'm excited. Now, will this work? And we can put like then install. Let's do that. And will it work? Good. All right, so it's grabbing a bunch of stuff. It's throwing passwords in. It's doing all kinds of magic stuff here. Waiting for Postgres to be ready. So while this is running here, look, we can also do htop. Look at this. It's going through all kinds of stuff. We can see that it's doing all kinds of magic here. What is it doing? It is running pip install here. Oh, that's just my other stuff that I had running. So this has nothing to do even with this. This is just waiting for the database. And we could see that my other installation, this particular code space has like a bunch of post installation stuff. But look, there we go. We see that Docker appears to be communicating. Let's go back here. Testing Postgres. So now it's going to test the Postgres connection. So it looks like it uses Postgres SQL as the back end to keep track of the model versioning. Then it's creating a Postgres database. Looking pretty good. Surprisingly straightforward so far with BentoML. I have to admit, this company really appears to really appears to have a reproducible workflow. And so to access it, you run the following command and keep the terminal open. Okay, we'll do this next. So waiting for this to be ready. Let's go ahead and wait for that. No matching resource. So there must be some post install thing where it's waiting for something to be created. Then I can open up one more terminal. So we have htop running. There we go. We can see that Docker appears to be doing a bunch of stuff. It's always a good idea to look at the top to get a feel for if things are doing what you expect them to do. So, okay, we say enter you don't see a command prompt, try pressing enter. Well, I don't know if I do need enter because I can just open up another shell and I can just run that command. Oh, maybe it's not done yet. Pod S3 client terminated. So far that's not working. kubectl services. kubectl. Well, this is where things get a little bit tricky. Maybe this won't work. Open in browser. Oh, wait, here we go. When installing for the first time, you do this. So we do that. And then we run this command here. Oh. Whoa, I got it running. Amazing. So how do you log in? Handling connection. How do you log in? So for the admin. So I don't know how you get a login working, but maybe you don't need one. So it looks like you don't. But cool. I got this thing working. I'm definitely curious to try this thing out in the future. It does look like a very interesting little service here. That's not horrible to actually install, and not a bad place to stop. So I'll go ahead and just maybe take a screenshot of this, and I'll put this into the docs for this project. But yeah, worth playing around with here. I'm going to kill this instance to get status. There you go, get add bento, and call it a day. So I'll be back in a couple weeks, and I'll keep moving probably on bento, adding a bento docs. There we go. All right, be back in a couple weeks. See you then.